The night was warm, the kind where the air feels thick with something unspoken. I could feel my pulse quicken as I stared at him across the table. My hands were wrapped around the edges of my wine glass, but I wasn't even tasting the drink anymore. The conversation had become background noise, a faint hum in my ears as I let my eyes wander to the man sitting opposite me. His name was Chris, and tonight, everything felt dangerously close to crossing a line. I had been married to Jake for almost 5 years, and things had been, well, predictable. Predictable in the worst way. We had become comfortable, almost too comfortable. The spark between us had slowly faded into routine. Jake had always been a good husband, dependable, loyal, and loving in his own way. But he wasn't Chris. And tonight, I was starting to understand that there was a difference. Chris and I met at a work event a few months ago. He was charming, witty, and had this natural way of drawing people in. When he spoke, you couldn't help but listen. There was an ease about him, something magnetic that made you feel like you were the only one in the room. I couldn't deny the attraction from the first moment we'd spoken, but I had pushed it down, buried it deep, telling myself I was just imagining things. After all, I was a married woman. But here we were, sitting at a small candle-lit table in a cozy restaurant, the soft music in the background almost drowned out by the rush of adrenaline in my ears. We had started off talking about work, and the conversation had naturally shifted toward more personal topics. He asked about Jake, about my marriage, and I found myself telling him things I had never said to anyone. Things that I hadn't even admitted to myself. "I think Jake's a great guy," Chris said, his voice low but genuine. "But you deserve more. You deserve someone who actually sees you." The words hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just the fact that he was saying it, but how he said it. His eyes locked onto mine with a kind of intensity I hadn't felt in a long time. I could feel the weight of his gaze, like he was peeling back the layers of my life, looking straight into my soul. I wasn't naive. I knew what was happening. I knew where this could lead. But in that moment, a part of me didn't want to stop it. I hadn't realized just how much I craved attention, affection, and desire that was not tied to routine. That desire that Chris had awakened in me was intoxicating, and the more he spoke, the more I felt myself falling into the trap of his charm. We finished dinner, and he suggested a walk. The cool evening air felt like a slap to my senses, but it did nothing to quell the heat building inside me. Our conversation flowed freely as we walked down the quiet street, the night enveloping us. His arm brushed against mine, and for the briefest second I felt a shiver run down my spine. He apologized, but I didn't pull away. Instead, I found myself wanting more. I couldn't explain it. It wasn't just the physical attraction. It was the way he made me feel like I was seen. It had been so long since I felt that way. Jake, for all his good qualities, had become a ghost in my life. We shared a home, a routine, but we rarely shared moments like this anymore. I had forgotten what it was like to feel special, to feel wanted. We stopped outside a small park, the quiet making the world feel like it was just the two of us. He turned to me, his eyes dark in the low light, and I could feel the tension between us building, the unspoken question hanging in the air. Should we kiss? Was it wrong? And why did I care so much? "Are you happy?" Chris asked, his voice gentle but probing. I didn't know how to answer. The truth was I wasn't happy. Not really. And I wasn't sure if I was in love with Jake anymore. The love had been replaced with routine, with comfort. But this was different. This felt like the possibility of something more. "I don't know," I whispered, my voice barely audible. I looked up at him, searching for something, some clarity in his eyes. Chris stepped closer, his breath warm on my face, and before I could say another word, his lips found mine. It was soft at first, a gentle brush of his mouth against mine. But then, something inside me snapped. I kissed him back, harder, my hands gripping his shirt as if I was trying to anchor myself in this moment. His hand slid to my back, pulling me closer. The heat between us was undeniable, and the world around us seemed to fade into oblivion. I should have stopped. I should have pulled away. But I didn't. His lips moved down to my neck, and my breath hitched. I could feel his body against mine, his chest rising and falling with each deep breath, and I didn't want to stop. Part of me knew it was a mistake, a huge, irreversible mistake. But another part of me wanted to keep going, to feel something, anything other than the emptiness I'd been carrying for so long. I pulled back just enough to look at him, my heart racing, my body on fire. I bit my lip, trying to process what was happening. But in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't about Chris. This wasn't even about Jake. This was about me. For so long, I had been putting my needs last, convincing myself that I was happy when I wasn't, and now here I was, on the edge of making a decision that would change everything. I felt a rush of guilt, followed by a wave of freedom. It was the strangest thing. "I don't know what I'm doing," I whispered, my voice trembling. Chris looked at me, his gaze softening. He didn't push me. He didn't pressure me. He just nodded and took a step back, giving me space to breathe. "You don't have to know right now," he said quietly. "But whatever it is, I want you to make the choice for you." And that's when it hit me. It wasn't about Chris. It wasn't about what I was doing or what I wasn't. It was about me finally standing up for what I wanted, for what I needed, after years of putting everyone else's happiness before my own. I took a deep breath and looked at him, feeling the pull of desire, but also the weight of my decision. I don't know what comes next. I don't know what this means for me, for my marriage, or for Chris. But in that moment, I finally understood that sometimes you have to make a choice for yourself, no matter how messy or complicated it might be. And sometimes, when you bite your lip and don't push someone away, you might just end up discovering something about yourself that changes everything. The night wasn't over, and neither was my journey.